lone leopard mother. A pack of frenzied wild dogs. And a life-or-death struggle. When the robbery erupts, the fury of the masses will descend upon the predator in the most brutal way. Don't look away. The real hunt has just begun. The unequal robbery. A lone leopard mother against a pack of wild dogs. The setting sun paints the scorched grasslands of the Serengeti red, transforming the landscape into a dazzling yet perilous stage. The leopard mother, with her perfect spotted coat, has just executed a masterful hunt. Finishing off an impala antelope with a single bite through its esophagus. After an extraordinary effort, she dragged the carcass to a high branch, the safest place from the predators on the ground. Above, in an ancient acacia tree, the leopard cub is savoring its first meal after days of hunger and thirst. The mother leopard's eyes gazed at her cub with contentment and tenderness. Her tense muscles now gently relaxing in this rare moment of peace. The antelope carcass was heavier than the seemingly sturdy dry branch. Each time the cub pulled, the tree trunk trembled. But it was enough to start the balance of the grip. In this land, killing prey was only 10% of success. The pungent smell of blood spread on the wind, quickly reaching the keen senses of the wild dogs lurking nearby. The peace shattered in an instant. The cub, clumsy and inexperienced, accidentally let the antelope carcass slip from the branch. In a desperate attempt to hold onto its meal, its tiny claws only made the prey slip faster. A dry thud echoed as the heavy mass of flesh hit the ground. The wild dogs swarmed forward like a tidal wave, their eyes blazing with greed at the sight of the feast presented to them. The mother leopard immediately roared, her maternal instincts kicking in. The robbery had begun. One dog leaped high, just a few inches from the leopard's feet. But the leopard was quicker. It pushed its prey into a sturdy branch. Changed its position, and stood aloft like a spotted statue. Below, the pack of wild dogs tore at the bark, clawing frantically. The dry scraping of hooves, the grinding of teeth. They howled in fury. The robbery had completely failed. And that failure was not forgotten. It fell into the collective memory of the pack. Finally, understanding that the height had locked this trap, they separated, not retreating as if giving up, but retreating as if making a promise. Their mottled shadows dissolved into the dry grass, leaving behind at the base of the tree a circle of trampled earth, full of claw marks and the smell of resentment. The mother leopard watched them go. She understood. Today, she had won thanks to the tree. That retreat was not the end. It was a process of gathering information. Serengeti doesn't allow a victory to be repeated in the same way. Here, the losers don't forget. They just change tactics. Three days passed in eerie silence. Perched high in the trees, the leopard mother and cub were temporarily safe. But that peace was becoming suffocating. The meat supply had dwindled under the scorching sun. The cub lingered near its mother, snuggling deep into her fur as if seeking a vague comfort. The tiny cub looked up at its mother with eyes dulled with exhaustion. Weak little whimpers escaping as hunger began to gnaw at its heart. The high fortress was no longer enough to protect them from the harsh reality. The mother leopard gently licked her cub's head. Under the low bushes, the eyes of the pack of wild dogs still lingered. In the leopard's world, solitude used to be an advantage. Silence, precision, independence. But when it comes to protecting her young, that very solitude becomes a fatal weakness. Every decision the mother leopard made now revolved not around herself, but around buying time for another life. On the savannah, survival wasn't always about outrunning the predator, but about knowing when to stand still and when to disappear. In the desolate twilight, the mother leopard silently crept down. She pressed herself close to the dry grass, every muscle tense with vigilance. Not far away, she left her cub hidden in a thick, thorny bush, while she began stalking a new target. But the mother leopard was mistaken. The pack of wild dogs wasn't waiting for her to hunt. They remained nearby, patient as ghosts. The silence of the savannah now wasn't peace, but a deadly stillness before the most violent storm. The wild dogs weren't waiting for her to hunt. They were waiting for her to leave the tree that saved her life. Without a sound, the space was suddenly torn apart by a shrill, chirping howl. 12 wild dogs emerged from the bushes, forming a deadly encirclement. They weren't targeting any other prey. Their sole objective was the lone mother in the open field. The previous failed robbery had turned into a calculated revenge. They employed a tactic of attrition, taking turns attacking from behind, forcing the mother leopard to desperately try to defend herself. Amidst her wounds, the mother leopard recognized a danger. The direction of the fight was shifting toward the thorny bush where her cub was hiding. In a life-or-death decision, the mother leopard delivered one last blow. Then, instead of running toward the bush, she darted in the completely opposite direction. A breathtaking chase ensued. The mother leopard plunged into the dense vegetation, luring the pack of dogs. Meanwhile, in the quiet, thorny bush, a short distance away, The cub remained safe in an eerie silence. A shadow darted past. A sharp chirping sound rang out and then faded. The setting sun cast a suffocating, pale yellow hue over the steppe. The breathtaking chase had vanished behind the distant rocky ridges. The howling of the wild dogs gradually faded and then ceased. Returning the space to the silence of death. The Serengeti neither celebrates the victor nor pities the loser. It only remembers the traces left behind after each cycle of survival. If the leopard cub survives today, it will grow up with the memory of a world where there is no room for error, and where life is sometimes bought at the silent disappearance of others. This is not the end, but another link in the harsh cycle of the savannah. Will Mother Leopard be able to return to this thicket? The savannah never makes promises to those who are alone. Only one question hangs in the air as the evening shadows fall. Will tomorrow's dawn bring back the figure of the Queen of the Apricot Blossoms? Or is this silence the end? Serengeti remains as harsh as ever. Keeping the secret of the Great Mother's fate hidden within its heart. If this moment of sacrifice leaves you speechless, please leave your thoughts below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to await the answer in the next survival cycles of the Green Savannah.
In the cold air creeping across the ground, the lions crouched around the carcass of their prey. In the darkness beyond, golden eyes were slowly closing into arcs. A battle broke out, slowly and more dangerously. The battle of the prey erupts. The lions are surrounded by hyenas. Night descended on the Okavango so quickly that the ground had not yet cooled from the heat of the day. The entire space changed color, from fiery red to purple, and then slid straight into darkness, as if someone had just covered the sky and earth with a thick layer of cloth. In the damp and cold night air, the lions were standing around the carcass of the zebra that had just collapsed. The heat from the prey's body still rising and mixing with the wind, creating a hazy smoke that spread close to the ground. They breathed heavily, their chests heaving with the inertia of the chase that had just ended. The way the 5 great figures crouched around their prey was like a silent ritual, where the leader crouched down, taking the first bite of meat as a mark of ownership. Crimson drops of blood ran down its lips, reflecting the moonlight in a long silver streak. No words needed, no roar needed. That moment was enough to tell the whole forest. Tonight, victory is ours. But the Okavango has never been a place to rest for any victory. The youngest lion in the pride, his mane barely reaching his neck, raised his head from the pile of meat, his ears twitching slightly. He heard something small, sharp, like the sound of small stones rubbing against each other. When the wind changed direction, his head tilted back slightly, his face contorted in a look of both discomfort and alertness. The smell of the night soil, the smell of blood, and the familiar scent of a species he never liked to encounter. After dark, a few dozen paces away, in the undergrowth, there were moving shadows. At first, vague as hot air currents, then gradually becoming short, stocky, with large heads and heavy shoulders. A pair of yellow eyes flashed, then a second pair, then a whole line of eyes curved in the night. Hyenas, and not a few. The oldest male, carrying a deep scar ran from under his eye to his jaw, and he turned his head slightly. He didn't look at the hyenas, but at the reaction of his comrades first. The way the pack stood in a semicircle around the carcass made one thing clear. There was no breaking up. The air thickened noticeably. The wind almost stopped. The Okavango seemed to hold its breath. The leader's eyes slowly glanced toward the low shadows creeping along the edge of the darkness. He knew who they were, not just carcasses, but hyenas, with their leader female, who were always unwelcome. And tonight, with the scent of a dead zebra spreading like a midnight signal, the pack of intruders had arrived. Silent, numerous, and reckless. The young lion took a deep breath. He didn't understand it all, but looking at the low, closing shadows, he sensed something familiar. Troublesome people. The leader took a step forward, blocking the zebra carcass from the thickening darkness. Her mane shook slightly in the wind, but the light, its eyes did not shake. There was a calmness in that look that only those who had lived through many hungry seasons could have. Calm before storms, calm before debt collectors, calm before a battle that was sure to be difficult. A shrill laugh rang out from deep in the bush, small, but enough to tear the air. Tonight was no longer a story of the pack dividing the meat. The atmosphere around the zebra carcass suddenly became so heavy that even the young lion felt his breathing slow. The hyenas had almost closed the arc. Each of their halting steps was tinged with intention. No longer the way they waited to see if their chance would come, as if they had decided, if they had to pay the price, they would do it. The female leader stepped out of the bush first. Her shoulders were lowered, but her eyes were raised, her gaze so sharp that it pierced the night dust. She did not rush forward, but stood there, which sounded polite, but was actually a declaration of her arrival. The leader lion did not roar in response. He only stepped heavily on the ground, enough to stir up a small trail of dust. On the savannah, sometimes just one step like that was a clearer warning than any roar. But the hyenas were not easy to get down. A young male among them, his cheek still scarred from a previous battle, let out a long, high-pitched laugh. The laughter spread, passed from mouth to mouth, until the whole pack caught up with each other. A shrill chord, both like a deep cut into the air and a direct provocation to the pride of the lions. No clear command, no need for a command. The three hyenas on the left edge leaped forward, so fast that the grass did not have time to rustle. They charged straight at the old lion, the one they remembered most clearly from their previous defeat. The first bite landed on the lion's thigh, deep and strong. The old lion roared loudly, the roar hitting the night wall like a whip. But before the roar could echo, more shadows rushed in. The air exploded into a mixture of sounds: screeching, the sound of teeth clashing, the sound of claws scraping the ground, the sound of wind being torn along with each crash. In 3 seconds, the situation had completely changed. The pride of lions was pulled apart in the blink of an eye. It roared instinctively, but the roar was swallowed by the thick dust swirling around its body. For a moment, all it could see were gaping mouths, glowing yellow eyes gleaming with excitement at its prey. In the dense darkness of the Okavango, the hyena's screeching gradually drowned out the sound of the wind. They rushed at the zebra carcass like a dark storm, tearing flesh in the angry helplessness of the pride of lions. It wasn't that they didn't want to rush in. It was just that tonight, more blood would be exchanged for lives. A low, hoarse, short roar sounded from the leader's throat, like a reluctant acceptance. The lions retreated a few steps, keeping enough distance to avoid further attacks, but also not taking their eyes off the hyenas. Those eyes glowed in the darkness, not with fear, but with memory. As the hyena's screech echoed like a song of victory, the lions just stood there, sighing and silent. But in that silence, something else was brewing. Not hunger, not defeat, but revenge. A debt that had to be recorded tonight. And in the Okavango, such debts are never forgotten. When the sun rose, no one knew who would pay first. After the night of being forced to share the meat with the robbers, the lions ate the rest in silence. Not a full feast, but enough to ease the hunger that had lasted for many days. When dawn broke, 5 huge figures lay panting under the acacia tree, eyes closed but breathing heavily. As if the pack were trying to swallow the insult rather than the small piece of meat that had entered their bellies. For the next 3 days, they wandered the dusty gray land. No scent of prey strong enough. No footprints fresh. Only hunger and the memory of the hyena's mocking hiss, following their every step. On the 4th day, before dusk had even touched the ground, the scent of prey suddenly wafted on the wind. The leader stopped, his head lowered, and then lifted as if the whole world had whispered of an opportunity. The 4 remaining males immediately turned their eyes to him without needing a command. The males understood that this was not just a hunt, but a chance to clean an unseen wound. They charged, fast and sure, not waiting for the darkness. The males running that day was not for stalking but for attacking straight away, as if the sun still burning red above had been swept away by the anger that had been pent up all those days. The stray buffalo that had been targeted barely had time to look back before the storm-like slash of the dark mane slammed it to the ground. Red dust rose, the earth flew in sheets, and in that moment, the lions knew this meal was theirs. But at that moment, the familiar screech rang out. Not from the darkness this time, but from the edge of the afternoon sun. The hyenas appeared, as numerous as ever, but more ragged because they were no longer hidden by the night. They moved closer, expanding their formation, thinking the lions would retreat. Their laughter echoed across the clearing, a reminder of the humiliation they had sown. But the male lions were no longer the tired ones of that night. The leader took a step forward, his mane bristling slightly in the hot wind. His eyes like a newly rekindled fire. No roar, no threat. Just one step, but enough to make the ground beneath him tremble slightly like the pulse of ripe anger. And then, without waiting for the hyenas to approach, the lions attacked. The leader charged straight into the middle of the enemy formation. The powerful blow knocking the lead hyena back. The dark-maned one swept across with a powerful blow, knocking the other two out of the way. The blow sent the other beast rolling 3 times in the grass. The hyenas were immediately confused. They were not used to being attacked when the sun was still bright. They were not used to seeing lions charging instead of retreating. They had not expected that the ones they had once suffocated would now fight as if they were paying their last debt. In less than a minute, the battle had changed. The lions were no longer holding the flanks. They were taking the front. No longer the targets of encirclement. They were the ones pushing. Each roar carried the fire of the pent-up days. The hyenas began to retreat. Then scattered in the hot, dry wind. When the last one disappeared into the grass, the lions stood around the zebra carcass, breathing heavily, but their eyes were no longer bitter as before, only balance restored, self-respect put back in its rightful place. The Okavango afternoon turned a fiery red, burning behind them like a curtain closing. This meal, finally, no one dared to steal. And the old debt was paid, in the way lions always choose. Just one swing was enough for the darkness to remember their names. The Okavango afternoon ended with streaks of red sunlight, illuminating the 5 fierce figures standing around the zebra carcass. The lion's breathing was still heavy, but this time not because of defeat or humiliation of having their prey stolen, but because their anger had been put to its proper place. The males ate in silence, no fighting, no growling, only the sighs of those who had just taken back what was theirs. In the distance, where the red dust swirled and sank with the footsteps of the fleeing hyenas, the echoes of the battle still lingered, like the echoes of an unfinished promise. In this world, no encounter ends with just a win or a loss. Today, the lions kept their food. But tomorrow, the Okavango would change, and in the wind, there might be the scent of a greater challenge. A new pack of wandering males, a harsher dry season, or a predator more fearsome than the hyenas. Night fell, bringing with it echoes that even the lions could not predict. If you want to continue witnessing the breathtaking battles, every hunt can turn into a death match. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next stories.